Get Blindster.com.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your beer.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
I'm sitting here thinking about you tonight and all that you mean to me. I used to think I would never fall in love again. I guess I was wrong. When your heart is broken, when your wounded pride is laid to rest, baby, you'll never open your heart to anyone else. You say that you lie. I know you're lying, baby. You see your mind might be made up.
I feel like
Your heart
because Andy's birthday is next
has
week,
got its own place.
that he's been setting the vibe. You know, he's been giving these vibes. Like they are, loving and warm. Like he's in a good mood. Not even a turned up one. Like, he has something special planned. You did just play Jeezy, but I'm just saying in general, the last few days we've been real smoothed out, mellow on the R&B tip with a pop feel appeal to it. I like it. I'm just saying. I just had to ask, what's the vibe?
I mean, you know what I'm saying? You is rocking on the late night tip. You know what I'm saying? So, if people getting off of work, you know what I'm saying? I think, you got to provide that little balance.
Right. You got to,
Yeah, man.
keep them mellow, bring them down. They may not want to
Absolutely.
be on 24. They might just want to be on like 9.
Yeah, man. It's a roller coaster.
I
we go
feel
up and
you.
down.
We gonna keep you moving, keep you guessing. You were locked into hour 2 of RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you for checking in, VIPs. So listen, in hour 1, we were discussing about Jeezy and his admitting that he struggled with his mental health and how it's hard to release those feelings and talk about them. And I think that it is interesting. We've been having this conversation here on this show the past couple of weeks in various forms about, Black men and their vulnerability and speaking out about it. And I know that at times it can be hard because we are coming from a generation of not dealing with those emotions, not talking about those things, not, bad bees have bad days too, but, thorough men, I wanted to say something else, have bad days as well. And so I think that it is interesting how we are seeing these conversations evolve and how we are seeing examples of men being vulnerable with each other in the media. Do you know? Because I'm sure to some degree, some of these people at least have these conversations in their private lives behind closed doors, but seeing it on hip hop podcasts like $1 Million Worth of Game, which we're going to get into something from that shortly, I think is really powerful because we talk about it, but to the point that I was making earlier, is it really being embraced? Because sometimes, too, I think that because of social media, some of these buzzwords have become very, very trendy, and it's easy to throw out there, but not really do the work. And so I just wonder, are they really paying attention? Are they really listening to the signs and the things that come up? Andy?
That's tough. I think maybe like 10, 15 years down the line, you could probably see the results of it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go ahead and lean towards yes, simply because it's still being pushed. Like you said, they're talking about it on $1 Million Worth of Game. I think podcasts like The Pivot
Yes.
with Ryan Clark. I feel like that's the main focus, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? When athletes go on that platform, that's what they talk about. They talk about their life, and they talk about it from a mental health perspective. So, I mean, mental health is being spoken about on a lot of platforms. You know what I mean? Like, when an athlete goes through something, I think nowadays they're given a pass, because in the day they would have been called soft and
exactly. Like, what, you can't play through that?
100%. So, it's slowly coming through, but it eventually, we'll get there.
But let me ask you this. So it's coming through and we're hearing more about it, but do you think that those conversations are continuing amongst friend groups?
What age group are we talking about now?
I don't know.
I'll say this. I've actually had conversations with some of my male friends, and to my surprise, they've actually went through some form of therapy, and I was actually quite shocked. So I'm like, okay, I'm hearing about it a lot more, and I will say, at least amongst my friend group, I think the topic has been approached. Like, yo, have you ever thought about going to therapy? Like, even just having that question right there, I think it's
big. It's advanced, because back in the day, if you mentioned that, they're like, "Oh, that means you're crazy."
Absolutely.
Like, and nobody was messing with you. It's like there was no positive reason or aspect to go and get in touch with your feelings. So we mentioned $1 Million Worth of Game, and we're just gonna play a small snippet of this bigger clip. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's hosted by Jilly and Wallow, and Gilly. I don't know why I said Jilly. I'm thinking of me. Gilly and Wallow. And here's the thing. Gilly went through something really, really horrific. He lost his son a couple months ago to street violence. These are two street dudes. They came up, they had a lot of experiences. They've shared some of that, being happy just to be out, being able to move and do some of the things that they did. And the reason why I want to play a snippet of this clip is because Wallow was the one who found out and had to inform Gilly that his son had passed. And it's a really vulnerable moment. It's a really open and honest moment as far as what he was feeling, what he needed to communicate, and how he needed to stand and be there for his friend. And I thought it was important because we talk about grief, but we don't talk about grief in those terms. And we also don't talk about what it means to stand up sometimes and be a friend to someone, even if you don't know how to be. And so I think that when we come forward, we will get into the clip and get a little bit into that. And it also plays into the conversation to a degree. You guys are going to watch the spin on this and you're going to love it, about Taye Diggs and his ex-wife, because it's interesting what she said that Taye was dealing with because of the feelings. So it's something that you talk about in closed doors when it comes to interracial relationships, but it's interesting hearing it from her perspective. So on the other side, we'll get into all of that. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that for Bree's car. Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Bree's car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy for Breeze. La 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 la.
Is your eyesight changing?
I can't read this anymore.
Don't lose hope. People just like you are working every day using Braille, screen magnification, speech technology, and other tools and blindness skills. Your eyesight may have changed, but your goals, they don't have to. We can help. Visit us on the web at blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Now, I mentioned that we were going to play this excerpt from $1 Million Worth of Game just because I think it's important that that's traumatic, the loss of a child, especially in something that was so violent and considering where they come from. And I appreciated how he stood up and was not only there for his friend, but then to come back and to retell it. And you can see all the passion and emotion in his statement, but still in a manly way, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So that, because people get sensitive and they sometimes don't equate expressing emotions as something that you can do and still be masculine. And I think that is the wrong approach. Men have feelings too, sometimes. And, I think it's important if there are examples on how to do this or how to bring up a conversation in a safe space in a way. I think it's important to share those examples. So here we go.
That was the worst thing I ever told anybody. And I was like, man, jeez, go on. I never seen him like that. So it was like, in some type of way, I felt up because it was like I had to tell him the worst ever. So I felt some type of way, like it wasn't that I was responsible, but the fact that I told him that's the worst ever. So we was there for a while. I leave the hospital. I'm like, all right, I gotta leave. I go to the crib and I'm just up because I'm like, I had to tell him that. And the next day I called Gene. I'm like, damn. In the morning, I'm like, what's up with him, man? Is he all right? He going through it. So I said, at that moment, I was like, whatever I do, I got to be able to put my emotions and my feelings on hold in order to take care of Cuz. And I had to be like, and it was strange. I said, damn, I got to make sure Cuz get out the house. I went to the crib. I got him. I'm like, yo, come on, we got to bounce. We got to, I said, come on, we got to get out of here because there was so much going on in his mind. I'm like, we got to get up out of here. I got him out the crib. I got him to the studio. And I just was calling people like, yo, all the brothers I knew. I was like, because it was too much for me to go through. And I'm like, I can't really do this by myself because I'm like, I can't really feel right now because I can't be selfish on the aspect of I can't even really truly mourn about Cheese because I got to make sure Gil all right because I told him the worst ever.
So listen, I say that it is important because one, he called on his other friends. He developed a plan of action for his friend. And he recognized that, he was going through it. and he still had to deal with it, but he was trying to be supportive of his friend. And, that may not be the perfect way to address things or whatever, but he tried. And I just think that it is important that we acknowledge those things and discuss those things, especially where we are right now as a society. People are harboring a lot of stuff. And so if you have a good tribe, you are surrounded by people, or you see that your friend is hurting and you can in some way be there for them, it is imperative that you do so, even if you don't feel that you really know how. So that is it on that. Jerry Anderson in the chat says, I don't see that. We're all carrying something. Tavis routinely says that you can't be black and not be carrying unreconciled trauma. I mean, that is very true. That is true. But I guess my point is, you don't have to deal with it alone, right? And it may not be for everybody, but you also have to learn how to lean on your friends and lean into that, even in moments that are going to be extremely uncomfortable, because sometimes that's all you have. And we talk about emotional intelligence a lot. We talk about how far it can get you, but sometimes you don't have examples, right? We talk about that as well. And not all examples are perfect, but as much as we malign some of these podcasts with some of these guys, and some of them should be, when it, I feel, is giving something that is healthy, that could be an example of how to, just be there as a friend during grief or, whatever type of trauma. I think it's important. So that's why I brought it up. Shout out to you, Jerry Anderson, in the chat. Shout out to Aubrey Sinclair in the chat, Pretty Brown Mimi, and everyone else. So listen, Taye Diggs' ex-wife, she went recently on a podcast called Dinner and Me. It is hosted by the former star of Modern Family, Jesse Tyler Ferguson. And so they had a very candid conversation about her separation and divorce from Taye Diggs. And so what she said was, we all love each other, and, we had this really tight-knit group of people while they were in the theater, because, she and Taye met when they were both performing on Broadway. I believe it was Rent in 1995, married in 2003. And she said that, everything changed drastically once they got out of their tight, inclusive space. She said, Taye was on the cover of Essence and Ebony and being interviewed by all these black journalists. And I think he had his own stuff to deal with that. And it seemed like there was some disappointment in the community with him because he was married to a little white Jewish girl. And so I took that on too. She was asked how Taye felt, about when her career picked up and so forth, because obviously she's a Tony Award-winning actress, was in Wicked. She said he was always supportive and probably relieved, so he didn't have to feel like he was overshadowing in some way or taking up too much space. Ultimately, she said that their respective career success was less of a factor in their end of their relationship than the multifaceted racial challenges. So she felt that Taye had a hard time reconciling being asked, about his relationship and his status, and on these, magazine covers and things that are dedicated to blackness and black love and black family, and he didn't have that in that way, and that he may have overcompensated. So I want to know, and, maybe you'll have an opinion, maybe not. Do we think that it is inappropriate for these black journalists, as she pointed out, to discuss his love life at the time? I mean, obviously, we're going back retroactively 20 years. You got to think at the time, Taye was the lead with Miss Angela Bassett, starring with Whoopi Goldberg, Regina King in, oh my gosh, how Stella Got Her Groove Back, right? That was his intro. And then we also saw him in a series of black romantic comedies like The Best Man, what else? Brown Sugar, couple others. Obviously, he did other things. And so I think that, especially in the 90s, there's an overcorrection that took place. There's some black female fans that felt like, and we still see it today. We saw it with Jonathan Majors at a period of time where he kind of kept his girlfriend under wraps for quite some time. Maybe it was because she was not black, maybe not. We know there were some issues with Michael B. Jordan and fans feeling a type of way. I know that when the first sequel to The Best Man came out, I remember there being chatter about how most of the leads, save Morris Chestnut, were all married to women of other races. And how could they be in this movie about, and the how is because they're actors, duh. But how could they be in a movie that's all about black love and none of them are experiencing it? So I do think it is an overcorrection because maybe some of these women felt rejected. They were pouring their money and so forth and time into men. But, we want our screen idols, for lack of a better term, to be alluring. And by they, I mean, whether it is their publicists, the artists themselves, and by artists I mean it could be actor, singer, whomever, flaunt out certain aspects of their personality and lifestyle to make them more appealing, to have more fans so that people will support more things and buy more things. But is there a certain point where there should be a cutoff? Like, how do you reconcile sort of their right to privacy and the idea they can love who they want and do what they want with the imaging that they're putting out there? And does it still matter in 2023? In the chat, DJ Black 909 says, life is nothing if you have no one to share it with. I mean, this is true. Jerry Anderson said, everything is easier when you're not alone. I think this might be in reference to my prior conversation. Pretty Brown Mimi says, say what, in India? Black women journalists broke up your marriage. She didn't say that they broke up the marriage. What she said was that those questions were a source of anxiety for Taye, and that ultimately it did cause a strain in their relationship because, it was pressure. Black women are pressure. And I say that in a good way, and I say it, sometimes it can be in a bad way too. Sometimes we will definitely, lean in at times where maybe we could just offer a tap. I don't know. But is she wrong for telling her truth? Because we speak so much about people telling their truth and their side of it and version. If that is how she felt, is she wrong? Did Taye say that to her? I don't know. It's just such an interesting conversation because where we are, even though we talk so much about race and sexual orientation and how these things play a part in things, we can't have very many direct conversations because people get offended on the positioning, sometimes rightfully so. But even in that, if they can't speak to their truth or what their perceived truth is, how can we have the conversation? How can we move forward? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I just like good conversation. So sometimes I'm just going to put stuff in the mix and hope that maybe you'll have an answer for me. So that is where we are with Taye. Speaking of, relationship issues and, blaming things on the past. And I kind of want to circle back to something with Taye and Indria, but it also involves what I'm about to talk about. And then it also involves your favorite couple, which I haven't mentioned tonight. And I'm not going to really. I am a little bit, but not really. So this is what I'm saying. Okay, so Kimora Lee Simmons, she recently was talking about her past relationships, right? And she, during an interview, said that she was duped by her past husbands. So she's talking about Tim and Russ, right? Tim, of course, is her most recent husband, who she ended up, like Russell Simmons sued them for fraud, and Tim was convicted of embezzling and all of these crazy crimes. And then we know, some of the stuff that has happened with Russell Simmons, right? But she said that the drama in these relationships have warped her view of men. And she said she feels like she's at a point in her life where she can survive without a dominant male presence. She said, I fear that I sound way too much like screw all men. We need them. I love them. I love men. That's why I've been married so many times. And I have beautiful children, but our necessity for men in our life is very minimal. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. It's not giving what it was supposed to have gave. Right? That's Kimora Lee Simmons, Miss Baby Fat, right? She said, I'm so bruised by it all. I feel like I've run into con artists every step of the way, right? Remember, she got married to Russell when she was 23 and he was 41. They went on to, co-found Baby Fat together and all of these other things. But we know in recent years, they do not have a relationship. We know that the relationship with the kids is very, very cold. Russell accused her of stealing stocks that they owned together and keeping them and also keeping the children from him. So what I want to know is that's Kimora's truth. So she feels it today. She felt differently back in the day. Her thoughts have changed about Russell as time moved on because she had some things to say about the young ladies that accused Russell of various deeds. He's not been convicted of anything, I should say. He's just been accused. And, there's a very interesting documentary by Drew Dixon where she talks about her experiences. But much like with what we just said with Andrina and Taye, and even with Miss J sharing her side of the experience, right? People are like, well, why are you talking about your ex? Why are you talking about that? If you're happy, you shouldn't be revisiting that and da-da-da-da. Why is it not okay for people to share their stories? And who determines when enough is enough? Because we're all interested. I mean, maybe not in all of these things, but we've had conversation. We've discussed these things. Why is it such a problem when the actual subjects of the conversations enter the chat, right? Pretty Brown Mimi says she can have her truth. If Taye cheated, just say that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like cheating was the issue with them. I think that maybe you got to think that as Taye's star rose, his sex symbolism rose, it did hurt. I mean, and he talked about it. Here's the thing. She did not talk about it much during the time period in their marriage, but Taye did. It also made black women feel a certain way about him because they were tired of hearing about it and tired of being blamed for whatever was going on. They just started being his friend again when he got with April because they thought they were cute. And now it looks like he may have cheated on April, but that's allegedly. April's kind of not saying. At any rate, when we come forward, we will get more into this topic, and we'll also talk about more trending topics and headlines. Jerry Anderson in the chat says about Kimora Lee Simmons, maybe that's all she attracts. Well, we'll talk about that on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
So my lips, and I wish that you were still here to take me away with your kiss and take me away from all this crazy, 'cause too many words have been spoken. Too many lies have been told.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Donald Trump is appealing a gag order that prevents him from verbally attacking others in his January 6th election interference case. The notice doesn't include legal arguments, but his legal team is expected to challenge the order on the grounds of free speech. That comes just a day after Black Judge Tanya Chutkan seemed to side with prosecutors in restricting Trump's language, prohibiting him from speech targeting expected witnesses and court personnel. Heightened security continues in New York City with tensions high because of the war between Israel and Hamas. Mayor Eric Adams says there's no dangerous threats to the city at the moment.
We're going to continue to monitor and keep an eye out, as I've always stated, for the lone wolves who are radicalized in their own homes.
The black mayor says there's no indication there's a substantial increase in attacks on Palestinians after being asked about possible hate crime incidents. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This season, your coffee orders are getting warmer, and your outfits are getting cozier. The world keeps changing, and so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. You can get a COVID-19 shot at the same visit as a flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Talk to your healthcare provider to learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov. And don't forget to get extra cinnamon spice. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Y'all know what this is. Keep your eyes on me, apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you in it, apply that. Love upon it, live alone, leave it. I don't want no drip, baby, spray like it's really so fine and spicy, baby. Jump up on this.
Since there's a couple of people jumping off in the chat, welcome back into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. I got a question for y'all, or if somebody wants to call in. Do you like pressure being applied? I'm not talking about like work or, stressful situations. I'm talking about in romantic situations. Do you like when someone lets it be known and puts that hardcore press on you? Or do you prefer a more laid back approach? Someone that's a little more relaxed, subtle.
What does that look like?
What does which one look like?
Pressure.
Pressure, what is pressure to you? Pressure could be a lot of text. Pressure could be, hey, I know you work late tonight, so I got a little dinner for you. Can you come outside and get it? That could be pressure. I don't know. Pressure could be, so when we moving in together, dang, my finger looks a little bare, babe. I was out at the mall today, and I passed a jewelry store. Oh my God, they had this really nice watch and they had this beautiful ring. You should go check it out. I told them you'd be in and I gave them your name. That's pressure. That's hints. That's pressure. I know people that get a lot of stuff by dropping those kind of hints.
I think, I guess pressure, it wouldn't be an issue for me, or wasn't an issue for me, because
you were ready to lean in?
Think about it. If you're going to jump into a relationship, I think these are everything that you just kind of, described or whatnot. Those are kind of like expectations to a degree.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're throwing hints about a ring, I'm not going to expect that within 6 months of us dating or whatnot. But even then, even 6 months, you throwing out hints. That's kind of an expectation.
Because where are we going, babe, right? But so let me ask you this, though. Is it... Because I feel like, not complete, we know there's a difference between pressure and nagging, but I feel like pressure only is a problem when you really don't like the person.
I agree.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, look at baby stepping up.
Or if you deep down don't feel like you're in that, your partner's league.
Okay.
That's when it becomes pressure. If you're, I don't know, if you're Rihanna when she was single or whatnot, and you're just the homie that worked at McDonald's, and she just so happened to, you were just somebody on the hit list, you know what I'm saying? You probably, Rihanna probably like, I want this Gucci bag. You like,
She like, okay, I'll go get it myself.
Basically.
But we had that conversation, and supposedly, that was okay for some. I don't know. It's not a bad thing. It's just, I guess it depends on what you can work with. But it seems so interesting because we hear about all of the drama, or we see all of the drama on social media about the lack of communication and connections. We see shows like 90 Day Fiancé, Love After Lockup, and it just all says this relationship stuff is far more difficult than it used to be, I feels like.
I think there's a common theme tonight. And I think it boils down to that vulnerability. Yeah. I think at the same time, when it comes to romantic relationships, at least, for the men, it might be a little bit difficult, wanting to show vulnerability and wanting to be open on that level, because in one end, it's like, you might look at me like I'm a simp or a sucker or whatnot. You feel me? At the same time, I got to, maintain this, masculine situation. I got control over everything or whatnot. And, I'm a leader or whatnot. So it boils down to, just, and then obviously healing ourselves from a lot of the trauma that we've, experienced over the years.
We talked about this before, but do you think, one of the things that I think is complicated, I do believe that, everybody can benefit from some form of therapy. I think that is just real life. Sometimes you need to vent. You need to vent to a party that is unrelated, that doesn't necessarily know all of the parties. Sometimes I think that can be healthy, right? But I also think that it's so easy to throw out the buzzwords and lean on, the crutch of, I think I'm in a manic state. I think that, I might have borderline disorder or so, to do the pop culture, not pop culture, maybe that's not the best way to term it, but
Cliche.
The TikTok sort of, therapy or diagnosis, because it's there, it's on TikTok, it's really quick. We know that people go to TikTok before they go to Google now of a certain age group. And is it easier to not, because sometimes something may not necessarily be depression. You could just be sad. You could just be having, a bad time, right? May not be clinically depressed. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, you're not feeling your best or you're not good. But are we falling too easily into, pop diagnosing people and what they have and sort of letting that be that? And, going around accountability.
We're definitely giving our own self-diagnosis based off of what we see online. I think, there's also like a little mistrust or distrust of doctors.
Yeah.
And, when you think about therapy at the same time, I think there's a layer too, considering like, are you comfortable with the person that, you're opening up to? You know what I'm saying? Is this person, the same pigment as me? You know what I'm saying? You can relate to me on a different level.
I mean, I think it's really hard because, even the medical field in general, even more so when you get into things like therapy and counseling, like related but unrelated. I was reading that something like less than 2% of dermatologists are Black, right? And on the surface, these things seem so simple, but if you don't have Black skin, not that you can't learn to work with it, you don't necessarily understand it. If I tell you, oh, I have this dry skin, is your mind necessarily going to go to eczema? Absolutely. Or are you going to think something else? Do you know what I mean? Like, so there are things. So I think the same thing with mental health, to your point. But I also think that it's we're in such a weird space, especially with healthcare and how expensive it is and all of these things, of course people are going to go to TikTok. Of course you want to understand yourself better. So you're researching things to try and figure your own self out, to maybe circumvent some of those things where you're dealing with people that aren't of your culture so that you can have the language to communicate with them. So I'm torn whether or not I think it is necessarily a bad thing. It's important for people to be able to articulate, take accountability, and express themselves, but I don't know.
That's where discernment comes in.
Man, and discernment is lacking.
For real.
It's lacking. So speaking of more personal development and sharing your story, Jada, Kerry Washington, Stephen A. Smith, Rich Paul, they're not the only ones that are releasing memoirs this fall. Britney Spears has a new memoir coming out soon. And like Jada did, she released an excerpt and a little bit to people. And so one of the things that she was able to share was that in the late 2000s, when she was around 19 and Justin Timberlake was as well, and they were together and dating, and the pop prince and princess, she became pregnant. And she shared that she had an abortion because Justin told her he wasn't ready to be a father, and she didn't want to be a single mom. And so many people are like, ooh, and people's like, we reached out to Justin for a comment. Comment about what? I don't see there being anything wrong with what approach he took at 19 years old. Some may say it's selfish, but he was being honest and getting it out ahead of time. She had her choice. I'm not being insensitive, but I don't think that it's something he needs to make a statement about or explain. I don't think it's, obviously she's sharing her story and it's her book or whatever. She said she took it really, really hard and that she saw herself marrying Justin. Sometimes I wonder if not that Justin is to blame by what's going on with Britney. But if part of the reason why she circles back to that, or she's still, dirty dancing in her living room, in her skivvies and things, is because at that period when she was with Justin and they were together, she was at the top of her game. And, after that, as far as her personal life, things took a tumble, her career took a tumble and so forth. And maybe that's why she continues to go back to it. But I know we got to get these excerpts out because everybody wants to be a New York Times bestselling author like Jada Pinkett Smith is about to be announced in a couple of days. But maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. I feel like they could have led with another excerpt. I don't know, because I don't think that he was necessarily wrong. I don't necessarily think that it was the wrong move for her. And I don't think it's necessarily, yeah, I get it, interesting tea news, but I don't know. Maybe I'm taking the wrong approach in that thought about that. When we come forward, we will have more trending topics and headlines. We will continue to ask the question, are you okay with these celebrities or people in general sharing their story and naming names? Because that's what it's coming down to. A lot of that is why people are upset. I don't know. We'll get more into that on the other side. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here at KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? 'Cause everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here because of you. We're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom? She started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So we have been talking about reveals and how, there's a lot of celeb memoirs and autobiographies that have been being released. We saw Kerry Washington reveal that her father is not actually her biological father. We saw Jada rerun the last 20 years for us and, dig deep for the questions that we want to know. Like, she addressed the gay rumors about herself and Will in the book. Some other things. Rich Paul, that's his backstory. I haven't read it yet. I ordered it, so see if there's any deep dark secrets that come forward from that. But do you think it's fair to present your story with names and dates? I feel as though this is something that always happened. Like, I wonder what the reaction would be to Tina. I think that's what Tina's original book was called. Anyway, what eventually became What's Love Got to Do with It. If she released it now, because she took a lot of hits for releasing it, but I wonder would people be as open as they were then. Just seems like we're in an interesting place because although people want to know the tea, they discuss it, they break it down. You don't seem to enjoy when the celebs get in on the act. Then all of a sudden it's, why are they oversharing? Oh my God, yet again. I saw two memes and they were saying that they wanted Gabrielle Union and Jada Pinkett Smith to take us out of the group chat. And they said they could throw in Keke Palmer for good measure. But I look on social media and all of those posts have so many likes, so many comments. So what's the approach? Because my approach is, if I'm not really interested in it, I'm going to keep scrolling. Even if I'm tired, I'm going to keep strolling past it because I'm tired and I don't choose to engage. But people seem to want to hit it and engage more. So I'm just curious, what is the switch up as far as revealing personal info? Anyway, we can debate that at another time. I just wanted to throw that out there. Jerry Anderson says, we all get stuck at places when there's trauma. We do. Well, I don't think that we necessarily all get stuck. I think there's the potential to get stuck, but a lot of people work through it. Now, might there be some scar tissue remaining? Some leftover damage slightly? Yeah. But I don't think that everyone necessarily gets stuck. I think being stuck is a very specific mindset, and there are very definitive behaviors that go along with it. And I don't think that everyone necessarily does it. I think what they more than likely do is they learn adaptive measures. They learn how to get around it. They learn how to sidestep it. That's why, people avoid conversations and things of that nature. Pretty Brown Mimi says, yes, celebrities are definitely oversharing. Jada, Brittany, allegedly Barbara Walters had a fling with Richard Pryor. Enough is enough. See, but that one doesn't count because Barbara didn't reveal that. And I don't know if Richard did. That came from Paul Mooney, who's also deceased, back in the day, revealing that. So, I mean, what I'm talking about is a little different. People are, that's your normal garden variety tea where people are like, girl, did you hear? Do, 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 do. And this person said, do, 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 do. I am saying people are upset that these celebrities are taking control of their narratives, so to speak, good, bad, or indifferent, and telling their own stories, filling in the blanks. Like, there has been speculations, as we've talked about the status of Will and Jada's marriage. Are they swingers? Are they da-da-da-da? So she explained what it was. You see how things can get misconstrued in a game of telephone. So, for her, no, we don't have an open marriage. You can't just go run off willy-nilly and do what you want. But we can have a conversation about your wants and desires and talk about if it's something that you want to see it through. Is that the same thing? Or are those two different things? To me, they're different things, but to someone else, they might be the same. I don't know. It's sort of an interesting thing. So, random, I don't know if you guys saw this, but There's a place, I believe it's in Long Beach, and it's called Mexicanas Hibachi Grill. And it's in Long Beach, yeah. The CEO of the restaurant, he said, I guess maybe it was a manager, he caught a Grubhub driver in the parking lot with his own fork taking bites of food out of each of the plates that were in the order, and then I guess patting it back. Like, he said that he went out to the car to check, like, hey, what's going on? And the Grubhub driver was like, oh, it was my food, whatever. So he went back inside. He saw him on a hidden camera, watched him do it, videotaped it. So he reached out to the customers to let them know, hey, your food has been tampered with. It's contaminated. I wouldn't eat it. This happened. And not only did he do that, but it was too late. They had already got the food and started eating. But not only did he call them and let them know, he repackaged and sent them out a whole other meal to replace it. So first of all, good on that owner. Shout out to him. That's how you get repeat business and new business for life, being a stand-up individual. And he also said that if there's any driver that ever comes to his restaurant and feels like they are hungry and they don't have money to eat, he will feed them, but don't, eat from the customer's food. So I ask, and I'm sure this is a conversation that everyone's had before, are you concerned when you order from these apps what's happening with your food from the restaurant to the home? Because sometimes I think about the fact that I don't really know what the inside of these people's cars look like. Would I really want my food traveling in their cars? I don't know. It's so convenient. But sometimes when you really, really think about it, it's like a lot could be going on in that trip.
Well, some of these quote-unquote restaurants, they do like special packaging. So they staple the bags, they tape the bags.
This bag was stapled. It was tamper-proof. And the people said that when they received the package, it looked like it had not been tampered with, but it had been tampered with. The guy said, because he caught it all on video, the outside cameras, that the man used his teeth to open the bag to make sure. And all of these things, they have the tamper-proof seals. And he carefully peeled it back. I try not to think about that. Maybe it's avoidant, because it's something I think about and consider, but I try not to. I don't know. How do you get your comfort on with that? Kudos to the man, though. I just hope that, respectfully, I don't get a hungry driver. Because this is the thing, too. You can't even tip them to supplement it because that all happens before the food gets to you. Anyway, Pretty Brown Mimi says, wow, Grubhub, what's going on with DoorDash? I mean, here's the thing. This particular one was Grubhub, but it could literally be with any of those. So I don't think that matters too much. Well, on the other side, we will get into more trending topics. We're going to get into Bow Wow saying that artist development needs to come back. Maybe he needs to consider a second career like Tiana Taylor did. Adam Milan in the chat says, I've never gotten delivery outside of a local pizza delivery. I trust them. Really don't have a choice when I feel like staying home. Let me tell you what, I agree with you, but sometimes I do not feel like cooking, and microwave is not going to do. And you don't just want fast food. But we'll get more into that later. We're going to talk about these trending topics and headlines. Hour 3 is on the way, and that is the after hours slot. So we let our hair down a little bit. News and sports is up next.
I'm a tough cookie, baby, get the right side. Pop it, baby, twist it, honey. Do it like you mean it, darling. Keep it coming. Ooh, keep me running. Leave it messy.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Donald Trump is appealing a gag order